Right, we've now got to the stage where we need to put our rear sections of our W3 ribs into place. As you can see, they're pushed out from the die cut parts. One fits there, one fits there. We just need to glue them into place and then square them all up to make sure they're perfectly square. Once we've done that, then the instructions are telling us that we need to put our rear spar into position. I've pre-cut this to length, measured it all out, pre-cut this to length. So that's what I'll do. So when you come back, you should see them in place. Right, as you can see, the two W3 rear pieces are in, and our rear spar as per the instructions. The next thing they're asking us to do is locate the dihedral brace. You need to be careful here because we have 4 of them. 2 of these, 2 for the front and then similar for the bottom. They're the same width, but the length is slightly different. So the one at the top, this top panel, are actually longer. So double check on your plans, make sure you've got the right bit. The other thing I noticed as well, which they do mention in the plans, is when you put them into position, they actually sit too high above the spar. Now it tells you in there to trim them down, and also to be able to accept the 332 sheeting that's got to go on top. So what I've done, if I bring it a bit closer, I've notched all that out and I've trimmed this off here to fit flush with the main spar. Likewise on the other side, because this will go into the actual wing centre section. Okay, so the next job is, now I've got all that done, I have to shim it up this end here and place it into position, and then it needs to be glued into position. I'm not going to use aliphatic glue for this. What I'm going to use is 30-minute Z epoxy, which is a much stronger joint, as this is going to take the main load of the wing. It's sensible to use this. This really isn't going to be strong enough. As soon as the plane comes under any stress, it's probably going to rip out and you'll end up with no model. Okay, so next time you come back, this will be in position, and then we see what we need to do next. Right, so we've got our dihedral brace put into place now. As I say, it's been used Z epoxy 30-minute. This has been allowed to cure. I have clamped it just to hold everything into place while the curing process takes place, but as you can see, it's nice and firm now. What we need to do now, as according to instructions, is the midsection of the W3 ribs, which are these. They've been pushed out of their sheet and we need to place them in a similar manner as we did the rear parts. These need to butt right up against the dihedral brace, leaving 1/8 gap just here to receive the other forward dihedral brace when that's put in position. So there's 2 of these again, they've got to sit in there and they've got to be perfectly squared up using a set square. The other thing he also asked us to do is we have these front riblets which obviously have to sit there, and they want us to put them into position as well, so when we put in our top spar, this section here, everything stays nice and square. We don't actually glue these in, they're just pinned in position, while this is top spars just glued into place. So what I'll do now, I'll do all that, and when you come back you should see everything back into place, and then we can see about putting our front dihedral brace in. Okay. Right, we have our 2 mid ribs in. We've got our little outer ribs, W3 ribs on the outside, lining everything up, making sure that the central spar is nice and straight. The next thing to do is take our front dihedral brace, and again double check these because they're the same width, but they're slightly longer for the top wing than they are for the bottom wing. So what we need to do is just insert dry fitted in here, being careful not to break the ribs we've already glued into place, and just make sure it sits in and locates. And this rib actually does sit 332s below the central spar, so we can add our, let you see the wing overall at the moment. Okay, and get back to you in a minute. Right, here's just a shot of the dihedral brace now epoxied into place. It's all clamped. You don't really need to clamp with it, but I just like it to hold things in positions. Epoxy will just grab itself, but I just like to make sure 100% belt and braces. As you can see, I've got the square in here, keeping everything straight, and little tip. Old flight box battery, doesn't work no more, didn't throw it away. It's always handy for holding things down securely in place. These mid ribs for some reason were just lifting a little bit, so while the glue's setting I've just put this on top just to hold it all down, and that'll stop any warp. Okay, so next time we come back we should see this all completed, and we'll probably start on the aileron section. Right, we're on to the aileron section now. As I say, the dihedral braces are drying. So with the aileron, our instructions are telling us that we need to cut 1/4 by 1 1/4 strip of balsa to fit in as the aileron leading edge, and they're telling us to cut it 1/4 inch over so we can marry it up with the wing tip later. That just sits in there like that, and we just need to glue that in place. That's not going to take very long. So what I'm just going to do before I put the glue on there, I'm just going to make a mark so I don't run too far with the glue, and just transfer that with the straight edge. Okay, and it's just a case of running a bead of glue along the length. 1 and 2, and obviously this on the end because it's going to butt up to a W2 rib, and then just locate that and push it into place. You can either clamp these or pin them. I'm probably going to pin them because the clamps are a little bit too aggressive, I think, for this wood. So I'll just pin them a number of locations along the length, and pushing down, make sure we've got it all nice and square. And I'll just put a few in the bottom, and that ensures everything's nice and square and in place. Okay, again we want to keep a nice tidy job, so once I've just put this final pin in here, I will get my bit of cloth and I will come in and I will just wipe the top off, removing any surplus glue. We're bound to have a little bit underneath, but unfortunately there's not a lot we can do that until we lift it off the plan. Okay, so there we have that piece in there. That'll now dry, and when we come back we have our little aileron riblets that have been punched out, and they're going to sit in position in their required locations, and we have to have an 1/8 of an inch gap between the W2 rib and the first aileron rib, and we have a 1/8 spacer there that will sit in there to help us achieve that. Okay, that's actually a part quite nice little idea actually put in to aid you on your way. You can use that on all your ailerons, and then you know you've got an exact gap all the way through the build. Okay, right, back to the aileron and our little aileron riblets. I'm going to start gluing these into place. As I said earlier, is a W6 piece. It's just a piece that we put in there to give us our 1/8 gap between W2 and the aileron rib. You can see these are notched, so it's just a case of placing a small amount of glue along there and then popping it into place. Put a bit more on. There we go, there's our glue. Popping it into place, pulling it back so it notches against the trailing edge. And just lift this off so we don't actually glue the W6 in. That sits there. That should be nice and square, so what we do is just go to square to check. Yep, that's lovely. And then what we do is we just move along, down, using our set square, and just pop these riblets into place, squaring them up. And just so they don't move, I'll put a little pin in, stop them lifting, and just ensure it's square. And then move along to the next one. A bit more blue. And pop that into place. Another pin. Again, using our square. Line everything up. Just pop a pin in. Make sure it's square. They are fiddly, it's worth spending a bit of time on them. And again, likewise, one more. Pop that into place. So there's another pin. And just try and line it nice and square on the edge. Pin that in place and just double check the squareness. Okay, and then that's ready to dry. Okay. So I'll just pan in so you can have a see. Right, so we now got our top trailing edge sheet in place. It's all pinned down, that's nice and secure. The last job I'm going to do for this session is I'm going to insert the leading edge. If you look at leading edge, it's got a profile with a slope on it. This needs to go at the top of the ribs. And I've already put some glue on the ribs, cut this to size, so it's just a matter of putting it into place and pinning it. So as you can see, I've put a set square at the end and I've got a pin holding that in place, and square everything up, and it's just have to watch out for things like that. So squaring everything up, once it's all squared up, we'll just gently pin it into place. Okay, I'll do the two ends first. Okay, and then make sure they're nice and flush with the top of the ribs as it says in the instructions, and then gradually just move down and put a pin in each rib, pulling it into place. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this to dry overnight, and then we can revisit it hopefully tomorrow and see how things have progressed.